Yo and hello everybody, Mike here, baseball collector. Hey, it's Ty. Wait,
Hey.
Ty, it's over there.
What's up?
I'm used to pointing that way because I'm used to being where you're sitting.
Hey, hold on. Let me make it more natural for you. There you go.
That's all right. Put me back on the other. Hey, dude, we got a cool topic tonight, don't we?
I can't wait. We've been talking about doing this for about a month.
We have.
We finally found the right guy, so I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, I mean, with the sports card hobby booming the way that it is, more and more people are flipping cards, selling stuff they've owned forever because they just can't afford to keep it anymore. You name the reason.
Yep.
People are doing this a lot more, I think, in the last couple of years. And there's been a lot of questions / controversy / debate on, okay, do I have to report all this crap? What do I need to do to keep the IRS off my back? And, Ty, we're, of course, experts in everything here on Bench Clear Media, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Including taxes. Oh, wait, maybe we're not. Maybe we need to bring in an expert, someone that does know a lot about taxes to help us sort through this. And what you and I can do, Ty, is we're going to ask a bunch of questions that maybe other collectors out there are thinking about. Guys that are going, what do I do? And this should be actually a Bench Clear University episode, honestly, right?
University or not, people just want to know.
That's right.
Especially this year, right? When there's so much profit floating around.
Yeah.
People don't realize what they need to do. So let's do this.
Well, hey, let's bring somebody on that knows what they're talking about. It's Frank.
Hi, Frank.
How are you?
Hey, Frank. First of all, welcome to the show here. And
having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time to do this. And hopefully we can drop some knowledge on some people about what they really need to be thinking about. Maybe some things they don't need to be concerned about that they might be. And first off, I'd love to have you just tell what your occupation is, which they're going to guess pretty quick. And maybe how long you've been in the hobby, what you collect, tout your YouTube channel a little bit. Cause I know you and I have been friends for a while, but you're relatively new to YouTube. And so just do all that real quick.
Sure. My name is Frank. I live in Metro Detroit. I am a partner at a CPA firm. I've been doing accounting and taxes for about 25 years now. I graduated Michigan State and University of Kentucky. And in addition to that, even for as long as I can remember, I have loved collecting autographs. My goal in life is to get all 333 current, after tonight's vote, Baseball Hall of Fame autographs. And I currently stand at 283, and I'm just started within the last month showing them off on my YouTube channel, Baseball Hall of Fame autographs. Actually, it's Baseball HOF autographs. So you can see a little sample of my man cave behind me as well.
Everyone's intimidating looking at that right now.
It's a shrine. It's truly a shrine, and it's impressive. And one
thing I have to say before we start, the opinions tonight are just my own, not of my firm. And to indicate that, I brought my little hobby hat on and show I'm serious. I even have my glasses. So, okay.
Oh, okay, let's all, this is a nerd topic. We're going to just.
This is a nerd topic. I agree. So,
there we go.
We all have glasses on. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, we're fitting the part. Where's your pocket protector? That's my only question.
I am a modern accountant, which means I look at your shoes instead of mine when I am talking.
I like it.
I got to ask a question about the collection. What is your favorite autograph that you own?
Okay, my favorite. I have two favorites. I don't want to bore your audience too much, but before I started collecting the deceased autographs, my goal was to meet every living Hall of Famer. And one Hall of Famer that never did a show growing up was Al Lopez. So way back when Smalling had his book, and this is way before the internet and all of that, I looked up his address. I wrote him a letter saying, I live in Michigan. He lives in Tampa. Can I come down to your house and get an autograph? He wrote me back saying, when you come down to Tampa, I will sign one. And he underlined it, autograph. But he did not sign the letter. I still have the letter. And so, again, this is way before MapQuest and everything. So we had a friend in Tampa. He spent hours finding his house. He lived deep into a country club. So we go there. We knock on the door. He's not home. I look and I write a letter. I leave it in his mailbox. In the mailbox were the keys to his house, which, of course, I would never go in. We have dinner. We come back an hour later. Thank God he's there. He signs the autograph for me. I can't believe you came into Michigan for me. Ba ba ba. Then I learned a month later he put a note on his door saying, "I will no longer sign autographs at my house." So that is my favorite in person. My favorite autograph altogether is a Detroit Tiger / Detroit Wolverine named Sam Thompson. Mike probably is familiar with him. Ty, I don't know if you are or not. He died in 1904. He had no direct descendants. His autograph consisted of one autograph known until a couple years ago. His great niece, the great niece, happened to find a couple of signed postcards. And I was able to connect with the person that bought them all. And I was able to acquire one of those. And so I feel I'm the only person in Detroit that can say I have an autograph from every Detroit Tiger ever inducted in the Hall of Fame. I know Cooperstown does not have one of those autographs.
That's insane. Wow. Your house is like a little mini Cooperstown.
Seriously, I'm jealous. Of the 40 you don't have, what's the most difficult to acquire? What's going to be the most difficult?
Well, Pete Hill, Frank Grant was a Negro Leaguer. Rumor is he was literate. He couldn't read, he couldn't write. No autographs are known to exist from him. And I'm sure Mike knows this because I see this little book with baseball autographs in his background videos. There's no known autograph known of him. And I know it's an impossible task. I'm not stupid when I started this quest. It will never be complete.
But it's fun. The journey's fun.
Journey's fun. Unfortunately, I'm getting towards the end of the journey. I hate to say it. I'm looking at auctions now. I'm like, have him. So,
well, Ty, let me give you perspective. You've been to my house. You've seen my collection. I'm at 248 is my number. And the Hall of Fame autograph collectors know what's your number? And you know that answer is how many different Hall of Famers do you have? I have 248. Frank, you're at 286?
I wish. 283. 286 will be hard.
So, but the difference between my 248 and his 283 is the cost of a house. Like, no kidding. Like, you're talking about
a small house, a very small house. So
it's a pretty big house. But anyway, it's an impressive collection, Frank, and I'm really super stoked about getting into this topic tonight.
Okay, because let's go.
There's got to be so many people out there, right, that are wondering what to do. You know, we are. You know, 1099s are all due to go out by the end of this week. You know, you've got just people are going to start thinking about their taxes. And collectors have to think about that too, not just on the personal level, but on the hobby side. Correct. So if you're a collector out there and you're thinking, where do I start? When do I need to worry about all this stuff? What would be your thoughts on that, Frank?
My first thought is, if you got a 1099, congratulations. You probably had a great year last year. So you're not getting a 1099 because you most likely lost money. You're getting a 1099 most likely from PayPal, from eBay, because you made money. So you're talking about what you should do now. Unfortunately, the planning probably should have started last year when you started delving into the eBay realm. But just because you don't have good records doesn't mean there's not a lot of options. I'm going to take my hat off, if that's okay, at the table right now. It really depends how risk averse, let's say, you're willing to be. And Mike, I know you deal with risk aversion all the time. So there's numerous options once you got that 1099K and how to report it on your federal income tax. And one of those options is not to report it.
So not paying taxes is not okay. Sorry, Ty.
No, it's not okay. I'll tell you right now, people talk about getting audited all the time from the IRS. There's no one person or a million people, for that matter, at the IRS looking at taxes and combing through. Ooh, let's audit this one. Let's audit that one. It's all computerized now. You don't even have to include anything when you file. You do it all e-file. And the reason that is they're going to have computers and they're going to match up Social Security numbers from PayPal versus what you got and what you file. And they're going to look for matches. And if something doesn't match, it's automatically going to kick it out for another review. Again, probably from another computer. It's probably 4 or 5 steps till an actual human is going to start looking at your tax return and saying something doesn't match.
So let's back up a little bit then. So for those that are really new,
yes,
what exactly is the 1099?
The 1099, there's various forms of 1099, but in general, when you receive cash or some type of asset, property, valued at $600 or more, the person that issued that $600 to you is required to file a 1099. Whether or not how much it costs you doesn't matter. You receive $600. If someone cleaning your house, if you had a maid, let's say, and you paid him or her $600 a year, theoretically, you should be filing a 1099 with the government saying, I paid so-and-so X amount of money, and the government gets a copy, and obviously the person performing the service gets a copy as well.
Got it. So yeah, so everyone gets them from PayPal.
Not everyone
Most
gets
people
them.
get them from PayPal.
I want to make that very clear. The criteria for receiving a 1099 through PayPal varies. It sounds like by state is what it sounds like.
Okay.
Because I'm reading people in Illinois, which has a different standard of issuing a 1099 via PayPal. Because generally, and Mike, you probably know this better than I do. PayPal is 200 transactions or $20,000. Is the general rule of thumb. Mike, you're nodding your head. I'm going to take that's correct.
That's correct.
So, but again,
and eBay has a threshold too.
What's that?
eBay has a threshold too.
Correct. So, but again, my understanding is reading on some of these forums that if you live in certain states, that threshold may be lower, and because of that, you still may get a 1099 for only doing $1,000 or $5,000 in sales. Since you receive that money, no matter how much it costs in basis, let's say, and I'll get to that word a little bit later. To receive that money, you're going to get a 1099. You're going to have to report that money to the government.
What if you don't get a 1099?
This is what I tell all my clients. Never volunteer information. If you don't get a 1099, I wouldn't be calling eBay saying, where is it? I mean, worst case scenario is you file it without the 1099. Again, this is just my opinion. And if the IRS comes back saying we have records of you receiving a 1099 and you really did not receive it, let's say you moved or something happens where it doesn't come to you, there are alternatives and the IRS is willing to work with you as long as you can prove you're not lying and just elected not to file it voluntarily.
Got it. So, okay. So let's just assume someone is in a state that the threshold's 200 transactions, $20,000.
Okay.
They fall just below that. They don't get the 1099. Maybe they had plenty of good sales in PayPal. Maybe they sold some through Facebook Marketplace. Who knows? Various different places. When do you need to file taxes? When does a newbie in the hobby, should they be absolutely filing taxes if they don't have a 1099?
If you're not living with your parents, you probably should be filing taxes.
Deal. There you go.
But as a hobbyist, though, hobby related, is that what you're talking about, Ty? You know, specifically.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Hobby related. Your card sales, when you're selling cards and you don't get a 1099, do you need to be concerned if you don't have it?
I wouldn't be concerned. I mean, I can only imagine this. We won't even get into today. I bet you there's some teenagers living at home getting 1099s this year. Like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? I've never had to file a tax return before, and they probably still don't have to file a tax return. Their parents will have to file it on their behalf. That's a whole separate conversation. But
Okay.
yes, well, you need to file your own tax return or with your spouse or whoever if you're a head of household. Because I don't want to get into too deep into these terminologies. If you're on your own and you are filing, if you get a W-2, again, you'll have to file. There's many. Most likely, if you're living on your own, you're going to be filing a 1040.
Right. And I'm just assuming anyone watching this is filing taxes and knows that they need to be filing taxes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So explain 1099. You got, 1099R, 1099 MISCs. I guess it's not a MISC anymore. They changed it to NEC
There's various Form 1099s. That being said, I would really ignore the letter or the digit pretty much. I mean, there's 1099s for gambling. There's 1099s for K. There's all different, like you said, different 1099s. It doesn't really matter the letter. It matters why you got it, which I'm sure we're going to get into in a moment here.
Yeah. Ty, you got another question?
I do. Well, okay, yeah. So let's get into the 1099. Let's dig into that a little bit because I want to talk a little bit about how you offset and all that stuff, but that's getting really into the weeds. So maybe let's clear up the 1099 confusion before we dig into the rest of the taxes.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too. Once you get a 1099, I mean, it doesn't really matter what the K, the G, the MISC before all. It doesn't matter. You got it. You got to report it. That's the key thing. And TurboTax, which is what I use personally, I don't even use our computer system that we have at work because I don't want to overcomplicate things. They're very good at walking a general person through completing their tax returns, especially these 1099s. And it'll say, did you get a 1099K? Then it'll throw into you a what if scenario that we're going to go into to figure out how you're supposed to report it.
Well, go for it. You can get into it unless.
Oh my God, there's a loaded question. Okay, so I gotta be honest. I've been reading the blowout forums, and it's really entertaining. I gotta say, the best advice I saw on there is don't get your tax advice from a baseball card forum, which is true.
That's good advice.
That's very good advice. I mean,
get it from a baseball card YouTube channel instead.
I'm sure they're out there. And normally CPAs would not be giving paid advice, but this is free. Again, in my own personal opinion, there's 3 key ways you can treat this 1099K you got, assuming you got it from selling sports memorabilia, like baseball cards, autographs, whatever, through, and I'm going to assume again, eBay, you're getting paid through PayPal. The first way is to treat it as a hobby expense. And of course, my computer turned off. Now, the hobby expense, now, of course, you're Mike, me, everyone's going to say, of course, this is a hobby. I love collecting. Now, what you and I think of as a hobby is very different than what the IRS considers a hobby. The IRS considers basically a hobby, and there's 9 set of rules that they have on their website. I'm not going to go through all 9 because it's very tedious. But the bottom line is what they say is, if you're doing this not for a profit, if you're doing it for pure enjoyment, and you know what, I want to sell something, they're saying that is considered a hobby in their eyes. Have I lost either of you yet?
No.
Nope.
Good. Now, a hobby from an IRS point of view is the worst way you can classify your 1099. Because with a hobby, what you have to do is you have to put it as, it's called other income on the page 1 of your 1040. And so let's say you get a $10,000 1099. You're going to put all that as other income. But the problem is you can't deduct any expense. So in other words, any cost to generate that $10,000 income, you can't list. Its base is 0. So, and you're going to pay taxes based on whatever of the 7 different income categories you fall into based on your overall income. So you're going to add that income from your W-2 income and some other pluses and minuses, and you're going to get to an adjusted gross income, and that's what your tax rate will be on.
Frank, it's probably important. I'm going to explain cost basis real quick because that's a term that is important.
Cost of goods sold is being thrown around a lot, I see, in cost basis. Yes. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, cost of goods sold and cost basis are 2 very different things.
Exactly. That's what I want people to understand.
Cost of goods sold is literally, I bought a XYZ, a Mike Trout rookie card. I paid $12 for it and I sold it for $1,000. Your cost of goods sold is $12. That is not necessarily,
That's your cost basis.
Well, cost basis is what you've put into the item. Like if you
Correct, but the $12 is part of your basis. Cost of goods
it's part of your basis, but it's not all of your basis necessarily. Because if I took that Mike Trout that I bought, let's say I bought it raw, and now I send it into PSA to get graded, and it cost me $15 to get it graded, that becomes part of my cost basis on that item.
Correct.
It's equal to if you buy a house for $100,000 and you spend $10,000 renovating it. There's rules for that, but don't get me started. You now have a cost basis on your house of $110,000. If it's worth $200,000, you only pay taxes on the gain beyond your cost basis. That's an important distinction, I think. And I think people don't think about cards and cost basis. They think, well, I bought it for X dollars. I sold it for that. There's a profit. There could be some other expenses that can add to your basis, which can help you from a tax standpoint. And you have to think about those things like shipping and grading. Do you agree with that, Frank?
I agree. We're going to get the basis next in the Schedule D, which is the basis is going to come into.
Yeah, but it's important for people to when we throw out these words like cost basis.
Yes. And then when you talk about basis, I mean, it's more. If I were selling a card, theoretically, you can deduct. I mean, you can think of the mileage driving to the post office. I mean, every single thing that goes into selling that card, the eBay fees, every cost that goes into getting that card sold is part of your basis.
Correct.
So I'm not saying invent things, but think really hard, because your goal is to get that basis as high as possible
Right.
without, let's say, lying or cheating. Would you agree with that?
Totally.
100%.
Okay. So I think we could all agree that treating this 1099 and putting it as part as other miscellaneous on the hobby, as a quote unquote hobby for the IRS, is the worst way. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's the safest way by far to do this.
Okay.
Now, the next thing is, as Mike was getting to, is listing this as a gain. And there's two types of gains: short-term gains, long-term gains. Pretty simple. If you held that investment, that card, for less than a year, it's going to be a short-term gain. If you held it longer than a year, it's going to be a long-term gain. Now,
why should people care about that?
What's that?
I know the answer, but why should people care if it's a short
You're going to
term?
be taxed at a different rate between short-term and long-term. And again, Mike, if you think I'm missing something, because I know we're in a similar field, please feel free to stop me. Because
No, you're doing.
I want your
great.
everyone who watches to have a somewhat idea. So let's make things easier. We just talked about basis before. So basis is all the cost it took to get that one card. Forget about everything else. Let's say you bought a box of cards, theoretically, and you bought a box of 100 cards. You got the one great card. Theoretically, your basis, you paid $100. Make it easy. You paid $100 for 100 cards. You hit the one $10,000 card. Congratulations. The basis in that one card theoretically is $1 starting. Ty, do you understand that? I'm going to go to you, because I know you have a less of a background than Mike. So
No,
Ty's
Ty's pretty.
You to understand. I feel good about other people.
Yeah,
Ty's pretty savvy. Ty's pretty savvy. So you got it.
I'm the dumbest guy in this room. I'll be very clear with that.
Okay.
Yes, I totally understand that.
Okay, so
Proceed.
Again, tax rate. So if you held it less than a year, it's going to be the amount you got from this, again, 1099, all the sales minus all the basis, and that's going to be taxed at whatever your regular income tax rate is. That's going to be added, and whatever that rate comes to, that AGI, adjusted gross income that we talked about earlier, that's what it's going to go to. Now, if it's long term, the IRS, they got sneaky about this. They used to have just 3 categories: 0, 15, and 20%. Theoretically, and it'd be hard to argue otherwise, baseball memorabilia are collectibles. And collectibles has its own special category. Again, if you held it more than a year, 28% tax. Now, again, if your overall tax rate is less than that 28%, the IRS will not penalize you and tax that more. However, theoretically, I think your IRS rate can go up to like 33%, whatever it is. I don't know the number offhand. It's capped at 28%. So, Ty, have I lost you?
Wow. No, so my question, and I'm sure most people's question, is why would you file this as long-term gain then? It doesn't seem like a huge incentive.
You're an honest, good person, and you would never lie and cheat on your taxes, would you?
So they will. So let's say that the long-term gain is obviously 28%, but the short-term gain would have been, let's say, 22%.
Correct.
They're going to tax you on the 28% if it's a long-term.
Treat it as long-term, yes, assuming your tax rate is 28% or higher.
Got it.
Overall.
Got it. Okay.
But if your tax rate is lower, if you're in the 15%,
it can't go higher than whatever that tax rate is.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And again, let me say something real quickly. Don't do your taxes by hand. Whatever you're doing, if you're doing it by hand, stop right now. So.
Agreed.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's number 2.
Are we still all here? So have I lost?
Well, we'll find out. We'll watch the YouTube metrics and we'll see how many people we lose.
I know. It's
along the way.
confusing, and there's a lot of questions. I'm going to leave my email address, and I asked Mike, if people have questions, feel free to email me. I'd be happy, again, for free to answer basic questions. If you give it,
Are you sure?
What?
Are you sure you're opening? You want to open yourself up for that? Are you sure you want this?
Subscribe to my channel also.
Deal. There you go. You got. We'll put your link to your YouTube channel. You got to subscribe.
You have to subscribe also, which is worth it, by the way.
I totally agree. It's worth it.
So now we've tried 2 of 3 things now. So is it really a hobby? Did you buy it with the intent? Listen, I'm going to buy this stuff, but I want to sell it as an investment. So it's going to go on to Schedule D, whether it's short term or long term. And now we have probably the most tax advantageous, which is treating your thing as a business. Now,
Great.
You gonna say something? I'm sorry.
No, I said great. Let's talk about that, because I think a lot of people are wondering: do I make this a legit business or not?
Now, a lot of people. I'm reading all over the blowout forums. No, you started this. You don't have a business. You're doing this for fun, and you have to get some extra money for it. The IRS will never allow that. There's no right or wrong. Well, there is a right or wrong. I shouldn't say it. The IRS does not say you can't do a business. Anyone with a social security number can do a business. Do I recommend getting an EIN number from the federal government? Absolutely. It's $25. Very easy to get. It looks like you'd be more reputable. And I have some advice at the end here on top of that. There's things you can do to enhance your business to really seem like you're doing a business. But I think there's a strong argument to make that if you're doing over 200 transactions a year on eBay, you're running a business. It's a side business, but it's a legitimate business.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So now if you're running a business, this is when the cost of goods sold calculation can come into play. And very easily, people are throwing it out. It's beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory equals cost of goods sold. It's a very easy calculation in theory. To actually putting the pencil to paper is very hard, which is why one of the criteria for the government that they want to see is you're actually doing this as you're selling your cards. You're keeping an accurate record of all your inventory, so you know what your total cost is at the end of the year. So you're removing your basis, and you're trying to get into legitimate expenses of running your business. Now, you look at legitimate expenses of running a business. Let's say I'm doing this strictly from my home. You get a home deduction. You know what I'm saying? You can deduct your insurance. You can deduct your computer. You can deduct your internet. These are all theoreticals, obviously. The world's almost your oyster to show a loss on your business. I'm not recommending you showing a loss. If you show a loss, you're going to open yourself up to more scrutiny when it comes to the IRS. But it's not only that. If you show a loss, that's going to go against any W-2 income you have. And it's even going to lower the taxes that you're going to have to owe, or increase your refund at the end of the day when you're done with your 1040. So those are, in a nutshell, your real big three alternatives, from the least aggressive, which will give you the least return, to the most aggressive, but can get you the most return.
If someone decides to go the business route, they're like, okay, I have a lot of costs that go into selling. I buy a lot of stuff, sell a lot of stuff. Would your advice be maintain incredibly accurate records, number one? Because I think,
of course, that's my advice. Doesn't mean you're going to do it. Believe me, I've gone into legitimate businesses, and I go in there, and their accounting records are horrible. Believe me, I'm sure these mom and pop collectors are keeping much better records than legitimate businesses. What you have to remember is the odds of you getting audited if you make less than $500,000 a year. If you make more than $500,000 a year, you should not be getting any advice from this channel. You should be going to your CPA and emailing me directly. But if you're making less than $500,000, as long as you don't do anything really stupid, you got less than 0.5% chance of getting audited at random. And if they do audit you, they're not going to comb through every single line of your tax return. Believe me, they don't have time or the resources for that. They may hone in on the 1099 and saying the burden of proof is on you to either prove the expenses or prove the basis. Now, I saw someone, getting back to basis real quickly, on Blowout saying, if you don't know what the basis is, put 0. And I don't recommend that. That's just shooting yourself in the foot. Because you put something in. One thing you can do is, I bought this card, let's say in April of 2020, although you probably still have the records then, and I sold it in December 2020. You can look in April of what the fair value was of that card reasonably and use a reasonable basis. So, and another recommendation I have is, if you're going to guesstimate numbers, that's a term I like to use, is guesstimate. It's like estimate, but you're taking a stab in the dark. Don't use round numbers. Don't use, it's $500 here, $1,000 here, $600 there. You're just saying to the IRS computers, look at me, look at me, look at me. You know what I'm saying? The odds of that are like 1 in 1,000. So don't do that. Don't make it so obvious that you're signaling to the IRS, look at me. Because when they come in, again, the burden of proof is going to be on you, not on the IRS.
All right, so we're talking burden of proof. I get a lot of these records like fees and shipping cost and your purchases. All that stuff is usually pretty documented because it's all electronic. It's stored somewhere.
Correct.
How detailed truly do people need to be with their records? Right. I mean, what when they go to Walmart and they go buy cards off the shelf, should they be keeping those Walmart receipts?
I don't think the
type thing?
IRS is going to ask for a $5 receipt if that's what you're getting towards. So, I mean, if you're going to put your basis down as, I mean, again, if you're selling a $100 card, I wouldn't be too worried about guesstimating the basis. If you're selling a $10,000 card now and you're putting your basis at 9,000 something, you better be pretty sure you're close. You don't have to be spot on. I would be close though. And again, the higher the number, the more the risk. It's like, this is why Donald Trumps of the world are getting audited around the clock and not the average. I don't want to call them average, but like people not making as much money as Donald Trump. The more money you make, the more likelihood you will be audited.
Now that we've said the name Donald Trump, this video will not show up in any search results. We can guarantee that.
Uh-oh, you edit that out. I didn't mean that. He did say.
I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding with you. It's awesome. That was a knock at Hall of Fame voters, man.
That's a whole separate conversation. I don't want to get into. Kurt Schilling should have been elected based on his performance on the field. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
we all agree. We all agree.
Okay, so we don't want to make this go on forever because we want to try to keep it relatively succinct, knowing there's going to be more questions after this. Like Frank said, email him if you have specific questions. In general terms, what are some biggest mistakes you think collectors will make, or dealers, hobbyists will make in 2020?
It's funny you should say that. So I went through the whole blowout forum today, and I wrote down my favorite advice people gave, which I don't recommend. Number one, PayPal can't make you pay taxes. That's true. They can't make you pay your taxes. But if you got a 1099, you better pay your taxes. Number two, you need a paper trail with all your expenses. Not true. Don't worry about even less than 100. I wouldn't be terribly upset. Okay. The ultimate goal for any taxpayer is to pay zero in taxes, not get a refund, not pay money. Zero is the ultimate goal. A good piece of advice here. If you owe more than $1,000 because of your Schedule C, there's a good chance you'll also have to pay estimated quarterly payments
the next year.
Taxes next year. Just be mindful of that. So you may get an extra bill, which will go against your final tax bill at the end of 2021. Again, I talked about the liabilities on you. I was talking to some collectors who do the Schedule C, which still does allow for charitable deductions. And so what they did is they donated some high value, and I want to use that word in quotations, market value, cards to charity. So cards weren't moving, so they donated it to charity to get an expense. Immoral? Maybe. Illegal? No. Go ahead and do that if you're doing a Schedule C. What else? Someone says you have to file how you file your 1099 is based on the state you live in. Absolutely not true. This is a federal tax form as well. It's not the state is above and beyond the federal. So that's a couple of mistakes I see people making as well. Again, the only mistake I would see people making, we talked about using rounded numbers, not reporting the 1099, being too aggressive on either their basis or being too aggressive on their expenses. They do a Schedule C. Personally, I think another mistake people would make is claiming this is a real hobby expense, not getting any benefit from it, absorbing the entire tax bill. That's a mistake.
But I can see people doing that because they think they justify. They're like, well, that's the easy way. It is a hobby, and they end up shooting them, like you said earlier, shooting themselves in the foot because it's the worst thing to say, right?
Worst thing to do, yeah, for sure.
Or they don't want to track. Oh, I don't want to go look up I don't want to go do all that. I'm just going to claim it as a hobby expense and
fine. If that helps you sleep at night, go for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to tell someone what not to do. If I'm their accountant, I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, at the ultimate day, I saw another one is you need to have your accountant attest, which means verify that you really run a business or this really is an investment. That's not our job unless you pay us to do that above and beyond. Our job is to take the records you give us and what you tell us and put it into the tax return as proper and give you advice. And if something is blaring or glaring obvious, yes, we have to tell you not to. But if you told me I did 200 sales at eBay, I think this is a business, there's legitimacy behind that. I'm not going to say, no, you can't do that. And my concern is people are going to run, and I'm going to knock them. People are going to go to like factories like H&R Blocks, Jackson Hewitts. And people there, I don't want to, I hate to say this, but a lot of people there just are entering numbers into a screen. Oh, it says to do X, so I got to do Y. Dot, 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 dot. They're not thinking. You have to, the why is so important here to have a good accountant, because we literally can add value to your bottom line.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I want to clarify something, because you get your taxes and you realize, oh crap, I had a great year. It was sold $50,000 in cards.
Yeah.
You can't go start a business in retrospect, right? You can start a business as of today.
You can still deduct, you can still file a Schedule C. They say start a business. That means getting an EIN number, I assume.
Right.
You can't go back in time and get an EIN number.
So if you don't have a business, if you didn't have a business in 2020, your option is not to run this as a business.
You still can run it as a business. Absolutely, yes, you can, as long as you have your own Social Security number.
You just use your own social. You run it through your own social.
Correct. So they're going to ask for an EIN. You use your own Social Security number.
Yep. And you can do a SEP IRA and all sorts of cool stuff on that.
Yeah, exactly. That once you get that EIN number, you call Mike.
Right.
You call Mike the plan. You call me for the stuff that happened. You call Mike for the future. I'm the past. Mike's the future. Although you probably should do some tax planning, which you can come to me also.
There you go. I do not give tax advice. I'm a CFP. I'm just.
So I have a couple other pieces of advice, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
I would advise everyone, if they really want to do this as a business, get your EIN number now. Don't wait. You can make an argument if the IRS comes back, which I really don't think they will, as long as you're not overly aggressive. Listen, I realize this is a business. Look what I'm doing now. I'm getting an EIN number. I'm change your eBay account to a business account. Start doing proper accounting as well. Like we talked about using round numbers. Mike mentioned it very earlier that your 1099 may not have arrived yet. The government, people that give out 1099s have until January 31st to file them. Then keep in mind the mail's been really bad, so I would wait till February. And something else I'm recommending to all my clients is I would not file your tax returns this year until like April. Hopefully by then we're going to figure out the new stimulus package. And I'm not trying to get into politics, but last time the stimulus was based on your most recent tax return filed. So if your income is going up this year, which probably it is because of this 1099, my guess is you may get less of a stimulus than you would have got it if you didn't held and waited to file this 1040 with the government.
That's a great point.
That is a great point.
Yeah. Rule number 1, never volunteer information. If you didn't get a 1099, I wouldn't volunteer and say, oh, I did get. Theoretically, every dollar you sell should be reported to the government. But let's be honest, we're not doing that. I'm trying to think what else here. Again, Schedule C expenses. If you decide you're going to be a business, guesstimate, but don't pull numbers out of thin air. Don't say, oh, yeah, theoretically, I spent $1 million in inventory last year. I bought all these cars, but I'm just sitting on them. I wouldn't do that. I mean, your goal is to get to zero. Unless you legitimately had a loss, you don't want to go negative. It starts to get to red flags. So
Ty has a question.
Yeah, question on that then. So if you're running a business, right, you have that element of carrying inventory over to the next year.
Correct.
What do you recommend on kind of balancing that out? Maybe getting to a point where you're not paying taxes and carrying the rest in inventory over.
Theoretically, we're starting at the tax plan because theoretically you're not going back in time in the line. So 2020 is over. Yep. So this is when you want to get to. I'm going to answer this real quickly. Talk to your CPA about tax planning and what to buy and when to buy it. Theoretically, these are questions you would ask in December. Am I running a profit? I don't want to run a profit. I better go out and buy a lot of inventory right now, so I show a zero profit at the end of the year and not to pay tax on that. Because if you Schedule C income is taxed at 15.3% above and beyond regular income.
Because it's considered self-employment income, which is taxed way worse.
Look at Mike. He could be a CPA.
Hey, I know enough to be dangerous.
I love that line. I love that line. Oh, what else I see? Hobby talked about this. Depends on the state. Businesses, again, I saw there was an article about this saying someone literally said, I have a business selling baseball cards, and the IRS said, prove it. It's like, look, I buy Beckett every week or every month. I'm sorry. No, that's not going to count as a business. You got to show some effort of being a business. So I thought that was actually kind of funny. And I mean, that's really about it. Again, set up a business account at your bank. It's not hard. It's free to do. You don't want to commingle your personal and business expenses if you can avoid it as well. So, and worst case, you guesstimate and you get audited. If you didn't go crazy and you do get that dreaded IRS letter, remember the IRS will never call you. If they call you, hang up. It's a spam. They always mail you first. They don't knock. Don't freak out. Believe me, the IRS makes mistakes all the time also. They're not perfect. It's computers. Everyone's going to make mistakes. Even if they didn't make a mistake, don't freak out. Talk to your CPA. They're going to say, oh, you owe this, plus you owe penalty and interest. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed, but it's pretty easy to get out of that penalty and interest. Again, as long as you're not materially cheating the government. Material is a gray word. I understand that. So just don't be overly aggressive. The goal is to get to zero. So wait, Ty, are you sleeping? No. Okay, good.
Nope. I have tried to perfect sleeping with my eyes open, but I haven't gotten it down yet. Yeah. No, this is helpful. There's a lot of really good nuggets in here, right? I think that the reminder to get to zero is important. The reminder to get to zero is important.
I mean, if you're legitimately running a baseball card store, and I know people that they did very well last year. Let's add that. But if they did have a loss, absolutely take that loss. You know what I'm saying? If you can legitimately support that loss, take it. It's most tax advantageous to you. But if you're guesstimating, don't give the IRS more ammunition to come after you.
Good stuff.
Great stuff.
Any final thoughts, Ty, or questions that we want to make sure we cover?
No, I think this is good. I think this is a good intro. We'll probably have hundreds of questions in our comments, and maybe we can just follow up with Frank directly.
You can follow directly, leave them in the. I don't know how I could respond to your comments, Mike, but I'm sure you'll be in touch with me. I'm happy to follow up.
Well, you can just watch the video.
For me. This is taxes is almost a hobby for me. You know what I'm saying? I have fun with it. So, because I mean, like you see, you make people so happy sometimes, like they want to name their next kid after you. So it brings joy sometimes to save people money in ways they never thought about. They see a 1099, they think, oh my God, I owe money. I didn't plan for this. Like pump the brakes a little, get with your CPA. You have my email address. I'd be happy to reach out for you for free. Let's just spend 5 minutes and figure out all the alternatives there are. There's no one book fits all, whatever the cliche is.
Mm-hmm.
But also remember, they have to subscribe to your channel to get the free advice.
Well, correct. Once you email me, I'm going to ask for your YouTube name and make sure you're subscribed. Again, I'm running a great contest. You have to enter by February 1st.
Have I entered your
contest?
I don't
What contest is this?
Well, I was trying to get to 100 subscribers, but thanks to Bench Clear Media, I got there in 2 hours once Mike promoted it. So I'm giving away a bunch of current Hall of Famer and future Hall of Fame autographs. These are not little cuts. These are real check stuff. I don't believe in cuts really, so which you can sort of see behind me is all dated material.
I did enter that contest, by the way.
Okay, good.
Do you have to claim the gifts that you're giving on your taxes?
Claim the gifts I am giving? No, I'm
it's
giving
joke.
them theoretically.
Chill out.
The person receiving the gifts, if it's worth more than $600, if I give a gift more than $600, I got to tell the government that you're receiving that theoretically.
It's under the annual limit.
You're supposed to declare the fair market value of anything you receive to the government, even if it's not cash.
Crazy.
The things that you're supposed to do.
I know.
Supposed to do.
Frank, this has been helpful.
I'm going to
incredibly.
I'm going to take off my business glasses now. I'm back to my hobby. So,
well,
Me too.
Dude, thanks so much I'll do it too. We'll all be together.
Look how cool we look now.
Frank, your insight was awesome. And
I hope it helped. I really did.
For sure. If it doesn't, I mean, there's going to be hopefully some people that ask some great questions. if you were bored, then maybe you're not selling enough cards. Maybe get out there and sell some more cards.
Yeah.
But it's, there's just a lot of misinformation out there, and I think it's important
And
to.
like I said, there's no absolutes when it comes to filing your taxes.
Yeah. Well, this is at least a
file
start.
them. Don't pretend you didn't receive one.
Right.
That's the only absolute I put. Like Benjamin Franklin said, the only thing for certain in life are death and taxes.
And people that are filing now and not understanding, I think it's important. We've pointed this out 2 times already, but you may not have your 1099. Oh, I'm not going to get one. I haven't gotten one.
Actually, the government's not allowing anyone to file until February 12th. So you haven't filed your taxes yet.
Okay, fair enough. Well, they think they got all their stuff together for their taxes or whatever, right?
Correct.
That may not be true. So I would wait another 3 weeks. Then maybe you'll have a good answer to that question.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, awesome.
I had a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
You bet, man.
If you ever talk about Hall of Fame autographs, get me and Bill on. We love to talk about this stuff all day and all night. And Mike. Mike's got a great collection also.
Thank you.
We only talk modern here in Bench Clear Media.
No, not true.
Now, we'll put all your links in the show notes, Frank, so people can find you.
I also have Hall of Fame baseball signed by every future Hall of Famer currently playing, and a lot of them that are borderline. So you can do current also.
So you have Luis Roberts' autograph.
You want me to grab it? If you give me less than a minute, I can grab it.
That's a common joke around us. Is
Wait,
everyone thinks last year's rookies are Hall of Famers.
Here he goes. He's got it.
Quick, grab those frames. Mike, grab
Yeah,
those
right.
frames.
Go through the screen.
Look at this guy.
From his first signing when he still signed almost his full name, not the LV check mark that he does now.
And that is awesome.
So cool.
You're a stud.
All right,
man. Thank you, Frank.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
See ya. So what do you think? Was that helpful?
Oh my gosh. Obviously see why we had Frank on the show. He said there's no absolutes, and I think that's important to remember. Everybody should consult with, because we only talked on the federal level, right? I mean, every state, you're going to have state income tax potential ramifications, and you got to deal with that in whatever state you're living in. And so there's a lot more to it. We scratched the surface here. Hopefully we did a good job with that. Any thoughts from you, Ty?
Yeah, no, I think it was a good reminder that you don't need to freak out, right? There's a way to do the right thing, and that's when you're getting documentation from PayPal or whoever else you're using. You need to put it on your taxes, or else you're opening yourself up for some liability.
For sure.
But don't freak out. It's a pretty simple. And like you said, TurboTax, H&R Block, those online platforms, they make it incredibly easy to do this stuff. They walk you through. You almost have to be more stupid not to complete the fields.
Right. Totally.
So, yeah, that was helpful. There was some good stuff in there. I'm glad we
awesome.
did it.
Thanks, man. That was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, have yourself a good week.
Yeah, let's do this again sometime soon.
We should.
Maybe
Your
we'll go
videos have been
live.
good, by the way.
Thanks. Yours too. Oh, wait. Do you do videos anymore? Or I don't know.
I try to just edit all your guys's.
You are. That's good. All right, man. Have an awesome week.
All right. See ya.
See ya.